to the teacher of my teacher from the Cambridge University. What's your favorite food in Bengal?
Shorshel Ilish, Ilish with mustard oil and so on is among the tastiest dishes in the world.
What inspired you to think that this is what I want to do?
I was always interested in the humanities and in the arts.
Do you see the modern Modi era brings a new understanding or evolution in Hinduism?
One has to answer this sensitively,
Yeah.
but
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Jay Thakkar Show. Today I am at a place where a lot of people dream to be. I am talking to the teacher of my teacher, Professor J Lipner from the Cambridge University. So thank you so much, Professor Lipner, for giving us your time and just a small intro of who Professor Lipner is. He was born in Patna. He was raised in Kolkata, and he came to UK for his PhD after doing his bachelor's and master's in India. And since then, he is teaching in Cambridge for more than 40 years now.
38 years.
Approx 40 years now.
Yeah.
And he has taught my supervisor and many other students who are doing wonderful in their life, and it's really an honor to share the space with you.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction. Thank you.
Thank you. So, as I said, you grew up in India and you are an expert in Indian philosophy and Hindu culture, especially the Vedantic tradition. So, how did because you were in India, is that what, because you grew up in India, is that what sort of made you interested in pursuing Hinduism or Indian philosophy? Or what inspired you to think that this is what I want to do?
Well, that is a very good question. I know that I was always interested in the humanities and in the arts. I mean, I went through school in India and I studied all the subjects that school boys and girls study, but I became closer and closer to understanding the humanities and the arts. And mind you, India is a majority Hindu country. About 79.8% of the population of India profess the Hindu faith in one form or another. And so I grew up with Hindu friends, Christian friends, Muslim friends, but some of my closest friends were Hindu friends. And then before I left India, many years ago, I got married to a Hindu lady, Anandita, and so that, of course, sealed my interest in Hinduism. And then I did a PhD in King's College London, and I brought in quite a lot of Indian philosophy and thinking into that PhD. So that's confirmed my interest in Hinduism and in comparative religion, Christianity, Hinduism and Buddhism. These were the three traditions I worked in. Mm-hmm. And then more and more I got interested in Hinduism and its huge range of topics and subjects. And then when I applied to Cambridge, they gave me a lectureship. I was not known to anybody then, but they gave me a lectureship in Hinduism and the comparative study of religion. And from there, of course, my interest grew and grew and grew till it took over much of my life. So for all these personal and life experiences, I got involved in the study of Hinduism. I studied Sanskrit because you have to study Sanskrit to read the ancient texts and understand. I had to study various other languages, European languages also. I was quite proficient in Bengali. So I had a range of languages, Sanskrit, Bengali, pretty deep level, as well as French and German, because many great scholars of Indian religions came from those countries, especially earlier on. That is how I managed to function quite successfully in the study of Hinduism and comparative religion.
Wow. So, did growing up in Kolkata helped you a lot in terms of familiarizing yourself with the Hindu culture? Because Kolkata is not only your interest in arts, Kolkata is also considered the hub of arts in India since a long time. If anyone is interested in art, they can find their home in Kolkata.
Yes, though there are other parts of India which are also quite proficient in the humanities and in the arts. I mean, South India has got some great centers of study. North India has got some great centers of study. East, Kolkata, and Kashmir. Kashmir Shaivism is also very famous. So there are different centers of particular kinds of research in India, specializing in particular things. But by all means, because the British originally set up camp, as it were, before they moved to Delhi as the capital, British set up camp in Bengal when they came and colonized the country. And so, as you rightly say, it has been a great hub of the study of arts and humanities. And the food is delicious, I can tell you. I grew up in Bengal.
Do you like puchkas?
My wife is Bengali, and I feel very much at home in India, but especially among the Bengali community. Yes. I speak quite fluent Bengali.
What's your favorite food in Bengal?
Well, there's a fish called Ilish mach, a hilsa fish. It is the boniest fish in the world, and only an expert can eat it. And you can only eat it with your hands, with your right hand, of course, because in India we do not use the left hand to eat. You can only eat it with your hand, but because there's so many bones, that's amazing. But Shorshel Ilish with mustard oil and so on, these are among the tastiest dishes in the world. And I recommend it for taste, but I do not recommend it for an inexperienced person to try it, because the bones are profuse and deadly. So you have to be very careful.
Interesting. So coming back to your work, and so your work is spanning a lot, starting from Vedantic tradition to the 19th century Bengal, and the interreligious studies, as you mentioned, between Hinduism, Buddhism, and Christianity. Why do you think these topics make so much sense today, in today's time, when we also see that a lot of religious-based identities are being adopted by a lot of people right now?
Well, this is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, everyone needs an identity. And certainly religious identity, cultural identity, national identity is important and good. On the other hand, if it is taken too far as a source of divisiveness and discrimination, negative discrimination, it can be very harmful and dangerous and lead to violence. So it is a balancing act, really. You're proud of your identity, but you want to share your identity. You're proud of your identity, cultural, religious, personal, but you want to reach out towards others so that you can understand and learn from them. And that's what interreligious dialogue is all about. That's what one of the chief concerns of my academic career has been about. And rather than being a jack of all trades and master of none, you have to select certain traditions which you can study using preferably the languages. So I chose, because of my background, Hinduism, Christianity, and to a lesser extent Buddhism. But don't forget, India, of which Hinduism is the majority religion, is one of the fastest growing economic and political entities in the world. India is a nuclear power. India has a tremendous potential for growth, not only economic growth but cultural growth. India has sent many Indians to different parts of the world, and many Hindus of Indian descent have been born in different parts of the world, have spread to different parts of the world. So Indian influence is enormous, scientifically as well as philosophically. And because the mother language of certainly northern Indian people is Sanskrit, and Sanskrit is an Indo-European language from its roots. Mm-hmm. So you had great scholars from Germany and France in the 19th and 20th centuries studying this. So it became very popular in Europe too as a very profound religious faith, and as helping to understand the roots of even Western civilization. So this is why India and Hinduism are so very important in the world today, and why they are, therefore they need to be studied in a dispassionate and critical manner. So that is the reason why it is a great country with a great history and tradition.
So Hinduism in its such is more of like an umbrella term how we use for Europe. Because there are multiple schools of practices, philosophies in the umbrella term of Hinduism. So we cannot, it is very hard to differentiate unless one is really, really core to their books. If we cannot, it's hard to differentiate a Vaishnavite from a Shaivite in terms of how we practice, in terms of how we meet and greet each other in a day-to-day life. Especially in modern India, where not a lot of them put tilaks on their forehead. So how do you explain that vast pluralism, for lack of a better word, in Hinduism, that is accessible to someone who is sort of new to Indian religion? Because you are not, you are half Indian. You are, your father is not Indian, is European.
He was here. He was European. Yes.
Yeah.
My mother was Indian.
Yeah. So how would you how would that pluralism be explained of Hinduism?
That is a very good question, Jay. You see, I use models for thinking, and I've written about Hinduism using these models, and I have called Hinduism polycentric, having many centers. And one of the models I've used is in Bengali we say botgach, the banyan tree. The technical term for which is ficus religiosus, right? The banyan tree. That is the term for the banyan tree. And the banyan tree, if you've seen it, don't forget I grew up in Kolkata with a huge banyan tree in the botanical gardens, one of the most fabulous trees in the world. Now, contrast it with the mango tree, or contrast it with the oak tree. They have one trunk, and then the branches come out. But the banyan tree may start that way. But by the time you get an old banyan tree, and the Calcutta banyan is about 200 years old.
Wow.
So by the time you get to that, they drop roots from the branches which go into the ground. So that one tree, after 60 years, 100 years, 150 years, looks like a forest, and it is one tree. The sap is the same, that goes into all parts because they're all interconnected. And yet they have they have dozens and dozens of trunks coming down from the branches, so that it's sometimes very hard to tell where is the main trunk and where is not. You cannot compare that with the mango tree which has one trunk, or the oak tree which has one. Hinduism, that is polycentrism. Hinduism is like that. Lots of different trunks growing in different parts of the country, different religious traditions, different chief devas and devis, gods and goddesses. I'll have something to say about that later.
Sure.
Because this is not real polytheism. This is a different form of monotheism. Because most Hindus will say that there is only one supreme being. But the supreme being shows itself in polycentric ways. There are many forms of Shiva. There are many forms of Vishnu. There are many forms of Devi. And they put down, like the banyan tree, roots in different localities, different areas, different traditions, different myths, different stories. But they're all somehow interconnected under what I call the canopy of Hinduism. And they have similarities in ritual, in practice, in myths, in beliefs. In this tradition of the banyan tree, in this root system, Shiva will be supreme. And Vishnu and Shakti, or Vishnu and the goddess, will be somehow paying respect to Shiva. But in another one, Vishnu will be supreme. Another one, the goddess will be supreme. And same characters, but different subtle relationships in this huge banyan tree. So this is polycentrism. Many centers under one canopy of Hinduism, unlike Christianity, unlike Islam, unlike Judaism, which seem to have only one trunk. So this is the wonder and speciality of Hinduism. It's a survival mode, a survival technique. And it has worked for 4,000 years.
Yeah, because I think just how banyan tree sort of, I mean, I'm very dumb to comment on this, but still, this is just my thinking of how I understand from what you said is with an example of banyan tree. Just like after a certain decades, banyan tree becomes a forest. It is not just a forest, it is an entire ecosystem where it can feed on itself, where it can survive on itself. Because it uses multiple sources of nutrition through branching here and there. And I think that's how also when we see India as a country, or Hindus as Hindus as a society rather than just a religious people, in India we can differentiate them on language, but when it comes to how they think, how they behave on a very fundamental level, it's very, very we can see a subtle connect from a South Indian Hindu to a North Indian Hindu.
That's the point. Hinduism, what we call Hinduism, has no one essence in that sense. That ism is a when you talk of Christianity, Hinduism, these are abstract terms, and it gives you the impression there is one thing which is Hinduism. No, it doesn't work that way. And what Hinduism inspires you to do is to seek the unity in diversity. Hinduism is one of the greatest religions to help you look for unity in divergence, in difference. And that's what the banyan tree is. The banyan tree is one tree. That's why we say it is the banyan tree. It has one canopy. It has one ecosystem, as it were. But it has multiple, sometimes dozens and dozens of different branches which looks like different trees. But in fact, it is one. So Hinduism seeks unity in diversity. And that is why it has survived for such a long time. Because it is undergoing changes, this part and not that part, then that part, not this part. We're still part of that same banyan tree.
Right, right.
So that's a better model to understand Hinduism than in the Abrahamic faiths, which has one trunk and then all the branches.
Right. But do you think that the evolution of Hinduism has stopped? And how do you see the future of evolution of Hinduism? Because we do see sort of a neo-Vedantic ideologies coming up near independence. But after that, do you see the modern Modi era being brings a new understanding or evolution in Hinduism, or was the Neo Vedantic
Well,
one of the last?
that's another very good question, and one has to answer this sensitively.
Yeah.
But in recent times, this goes back not very long, goes back much more than a century or so. You have the rise of a new term, or two terms which mean the same thing, Hindutva or Hinduta. This is an abstract term. It follows Sanskrit grammatical rules. By adding a thwa or a ta to the end of a term, you make it more abstract. And you give the impression, here's the danger point, that there's only one way of looking at that tradition. That is the impression this term gives, Hindutva gives. But I've just tried to show that the Banyan Tree model shows that there are multiple ways of looking at the tradition. And so the danger of using or subscribing to the concept or the philosophy of Hindutva or Hinduta, the danger is that you think there's only one way of being Hindu. Whereas in fact there are many ways of being Hindu. It is a way, that abstract term is a way of limiting the variety and diversity of Hinduism. But you cannot limit its diversity. It shares the same life sap. Different roots and branches will spread up in different pieces, spread out in different places, spring up in different places. But end of the day, there is diversity in unity and then unity in diversity. So the problem with these terms like Hindutva and Hinduta is that it essentializes Hinduism, as if there's only one way of being a Hindu. But there is not only one way of being a Hindu. And similarly for the so-called Devas and Devis, translated as gods and goddesses. The early opponents of Hinduism called this polytheism, belief in many gods. And mostly these were the Abrahamic traditions, mostly to the British who had colonized the country and were ruling the country. Before some of their scholars, and they had some great scholars who studied Sanskrit and so on, before some of their scholars understood what it was, they characterized it as idolatrous, many gods and goddesses. But no, Shiva has many forms. Vishnu has many forms. Devi, Shakti has many forms. But it's all Shakti, it's all Shiva, it's all Vishnu. And the way that they interrelate to each other changes from place to place, but still it is a polymorphic form of understanding the deity, having many forms, not just a very narrow understanding of deity. So that is how I would answer this. Terms like Hindutva and Hinduta seek to do away with that variety and to essentialize the whole thing and to reduce the plurality according to, in a way that suits the individual. So this is why one has to be very careful about what the message of Hindutva, Hinduta is. It doesn't go with the traditional understanding of diversity in unity and unity in diversity of Hinduism.
Do you think this diversity, because the modern understanding of Hindu, especially for the Indians, for the Hindus living in India, uh, is is getting more Abrahamic, is to getting more around the books and the texts. But from what I understand, and I may be wrong, I may be absolutely wrong, but from what I understand, in terms of how to look Hinduism, is more as a society, just like how you describe Banyan Tree, is more as a society rather than just a few books here and there. Although the books are important, they give the essence of how of how an individual can develop their own philosophy of looking the world. But I think if Hinduism or Hindutva is if that confines just to the books that have been written, do you think in the future can the beauty of the banyan tree will survive?
Well, religion is a lived experience. The moment you condense religion into books, it petrifies it, it makes it into stone, and it cannot grow, it cannot deepen, it becomes essentialized, and then it becomes easily controllable by people who have their own interests at heart rather than welfare of Hindus in general. So one has to be very careful not to remove this diversification of Hinduism. And books sometimes seal because they can get out of date. Surprisingly, even my book can get out of date because the tradition is always changing. The tradition is always growing. The tradition is always putting down new shoots. And if you look around, we are not only looking at the cities of Hinduism or of India, we're looking at the villages. I mean, a large percentage of Hindus live in a village life, even today. Of course, the country is becoming more citified, and many Hindus have gone to different countries and are living in cities and doing business and so on. So all that is still carrying on. But nevertheless, in India, still the majority of Hindus live in a village context or a non-citified context. And so, from that point of view, you've got this contrast between the citified version and the rural. And you have to take both into account. And that is why I think that Hindutva is much more a citified concept than a more open concept. You have to be careful about it. You have to look to Hindus everywhere, not only those living in certain contexts and conditions which are much more citified and therefore tend to solidify one's understanding of Hinduism.
You were talking about how Western or Abrahamic religion used to look on Hinduism and Hindu tradition, especially during the colonial time, and also in that the Hindu image worshipping was also pretty misunderstood. And I think that was one of the reasons the pantheistic ideology was imposed on Hinduism, because we worship multiple idols on multiple image and multiple forms. So if now we were to understand Hinduism and why do they worship multiple idols, what is the philosophical and theological significance of why Hindus do this, and is it really pantheism?
Or pantheism means, of course, God is everywhere, and everything is God. And polytheism means that there are many gods. Poly means many, and theos means supreme being God. So I think you mean
My mistake. Yeah.
polytheism.
Yeah.
So is it really polytheism? And my answer is, as my answer is in most to most questions about of Hinduism, it depends. Yes and no. So insofar as there are different projections of God, that God can take different forms. You see, in the Abrahamic faiths, God does not take different forms. God is either the Trinity, Father, Son, and Spirit, and it stays there, or in Islam, Allah, or in Judaism, Yahweh. And there is a kind of divine simplicity there, one God. But in Hinduism, because go back to the Banyan image, there are many different forms of the one supreme being, because it's a vast history of about 4,000 years, and it is a vast country of millions and millions of people. So over the course of history, you've had different conceptions of God developed under different names. And if you worship Vishnu as the name above all names, the supreme name, there is a place for Shiva and Shakti. But they are in some way different forms or representations, sometimes rivals. Even that is there, or Vishnu. And the same for Shiva and same for Shakti or Devi, the goddess. And then they themselves have different forms, which different communities favor in different ways. I was going in a taxi in Bengal. I remember I was much younger. And as in many Indian taxis, especially if Hindus are the drivers, you will find images of one deity or other, or number of deities on the dashboard, depending on their house practices or their religious practice. So this was Bengal. So I saw an image of Ma Kali, the goddess Kali. And then there was an image of Manasa, that is much more local deity. And there was an image of another goddess there, and Durga. And I just wanted to test the driver, who was a Bengali. So we were speaking in Bengali, and I said, you have got 3 images, 3 goddesses there. So you believe in 3 goddesses, and there 3, how can there be one supreme being and 3 different names, 3 different pictures and paintings? So he looked back at me. I said, Shamne dekhun, look in front, otherwise he will crash. I was frightened. He looked back and he said, what are you saying, sir? He said that 3 are 1 and 1 are 3. He said they're all the same but different forms, different images of them. I said, you look in front and talk and drive. So I want to get to my destination, please. But he looked at me in a pitying manner, and he said, don't you understand that there's only one supreme being, but they take different forms depending on your community practices, depending on your location, depending on your circumstances, depending on your needs. So this gave me to understand the concept of Avatara, which comes from the Sanskrit avatri, avatarati, to descend. The Sanskrit Avatara means descend. And of course, in the West, this word has been taken over and they've made films of it. No? There are 3 Avatar films, I think. The latest one has come out. But the Sanskrit word is Avatara, descent of a superior power or descent of the deity. And the deity, therefore, can descend in different forms, in different circumstances, for different purposes. So the purpose of Avatara can vary. It can either be for the benefit of large communities, benefit of the world, or even for an individual. This is the graciousness and the kindness of the deity, that it can become present to us in different forms And that is why I say this is a kind of polymorphism and polytheism. One deity manifesting in different forms for particular purposes. This is avatar or avatara in Hinduism.
Interesting. So it is. So when I think of it in the context of the banyan tree, how do I make sense? Because banyan tree gives me the polycentric understanding of Hinduism, and from what you said about worshipping and the avatar or descending of the deity, either for an individual or for a purpose or larger purpose, how does then that confine to different centers? Because if I think of it of an individual, then it becomes so random. So uh, how can it be then centric?
Well, that is why I say polycentric. Many centers in different parts of that banyan tree. Different trunks. Those trunks have their own branches. Those trunks have their own mythic traditions. But they're all connected to other trunk, which has its own branches and so on. And the canopy is the way of thinking in the same way. So the one deity can come in different forms. And if you have a tradition of worshipping Vishnu, then Vishnu himself can come down in different forms. You have the concept of Dashavatara, the 10 avatars in Vaishnavism, Rama and the other avatars, right? Krishna and so on. So you have that concept of polycentrism even in the Dashavatara concept, in the Banyan, in that avatar concept. You have the same thing. That is, in a sense, the strength of Hinduism. It can manifest in so many different ways and yet be interconnected. And yet, so it speaks to the particular situation of the individual.
Right.
And there is therefore strength in diversity rather than weakness in diversity. This is why Hinduism is so tenacious. It has lasted for nearly 4,000 years. And other traditions have come and gone. But because of this polymorphic and polycentric way of Hindu thinking, you will see that there is scope for different people to interrelate. That is the strength of Hinduism. And most Hindus, of course, some modern forms of Hinduism are aggressive, but most Hindus will be tolerant. This is a method for tolerance. Most Hindus will be tolerant about other manifestations of deity. They may not go to that temple, but sometimes they will go. I've had Hindus even go so far as, because my wife is Hindu, I've had some of her relatives and friends so far as to come into a Christian church. Because they say, this is a manifestation of God in a different way. It is not our way, not what we're used to, but we don't condemn it. Abrahamic traditions tend to condemn. Hindus tend to make room for. And say, okay, we know what we want, we have our own particular tradition, that is something clear, but we don't say that yours should be denied or condemned. No, you are also making contact in your own way. And there is a danger of relativism there. That means anything goes. And that is not a very helpful thing. But on the other hand, there's also adaptation and the readiness to study and understand other traditions. So I think this is the strength of Hinduism, and the whole question of adaptation is also what gives it its strength. So the concept of Avatara means the descent of God, but God can descend in different ways. depending on local needs and circumstances.
Right. So this tolerance and this idea of making room, do you think even Jainism has taken it and sort of codified in their own perspective? Because I do see, I'm so sorry, I forgot the term for that. I think it is Anikantvad in Jainism.
Anikantavad,
Yeah. So it's almost like my truth and your truth. We both are looking at the same truth, but maybe I and you, our both truths combined can help us give us a bigger picture of the truth.
I've given you the model of the banyan tree. Let me now give you the model of the diamond. The diamond that has been cut, ready for
sale.
Cut into lots of different facets. One stone, but numerous different facets which are radiating light on that one stone. So this is another image of many in one and one in many. And I think this is where, these Indian traditions are quite powerful and strong, because they are able to accommodate. They adapt and accommodate. They accommodate and adapt. And I think that is why they are long-lived. The Jain tradition and its ahimsa tradition of non-violence and so on, live and let live.
Yeah.
It's a small tradition compared to Hinduism and Buddhism, numerically, but it is a very long-lived tradition, and it has shared some of its insights with Hinduism and with Buddhism.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is the image of the diamond, I think, is helpful there. The multifaceted diamond, the one stone and the different facets which reflect light differently through that one stone.
Right. Interesting. So if someone wants to sort of start understanding Indian philosophy or Vedantic philosophy or Hinduism in general, what would you recommend should they start off with? Because obviously there are a lot of religious texts by a lot of religious institutions and their commentaries, which I would personally not like to go through.
You will need several lifetimes to go through, because the traditional, now of course many Hindus have been westernized and they are using Western methods, but the traditional way of communicating knowledge was to have your guru or your master who writes a bhashya, a commentary on the text. Then one disciple will write a bhashya on the bhashya. And his disciple or her disciple will write a bhashya on the bhashya, on upabhashya on. So this is how the tradition goes. And this is how the original text keeps being reinterpreted from generation to generation through multiple bhashyas upon bhashyas, commentaries upon commentaries, saying, I'm just clarifying. I'm not adding anything new. Not really, they are adding lots new. But I'm clarifying the original meaning, but they are clarifying it in terms of the local circumstances and time. Through this concept of, I'm only clarifying what the master has said. Bhashya upon bhashya upon bhashya upon bhashya. Now, this is a method of being up to date and of interpreting what the original text says, so as to give authority and confidence in the original text, to show that it is keeping abreast of the times, because everything changes.
Right.
So the bhashyas, multiple bhashyas do that.
Right. Interesting. So what would a newcomer what would you recommend for a newcomer to start off with?
So I would say, the first thing I would say is don't go, at least this is personally, don't go and sit at the feet of some guru. Because not all gurus male or female. Actually, in Sanskrit, female of guru is gurvi, but
Gurvi.
they don't use that. They say guru for everybody now. The guru has become male, female. It's become unisex. So I would say don't go and sit at the feet of a guru, male or female, because you get the impression from the other disciples that these are the final words, that there's no other interpretation. My guru cannot be wrong. This is what my guru says, this is what the scripture means, this is what the Bhagavad Gita means, this is what the... So my guru is giving this authoritative bhashya. That can give you the impression there's only one way of looking at the text and the teaching. I would go for, depending on the language you want, but let us say we're talking in English now, so I would go for good introductory texts by scholars on what Hinduism is, or on what different aspects of Hinduism are. When you get a conspectus, an overview through good scholarly critical studies, then you know what I'm interested in. Then you know there is a very wide field. Then you know that there are multiple gurus. Then you can pick and choose your guru, because you know that background is that there is not only one interpretation. If it's an interpretation that suits your psychology, suits your circumstances in life, where you make contact in terms of your personal human freedom to what the guru says, okay. But you will know that there are other interpretations and they're not foolish, they're not all wrong. There are other ways of looking at the same thing. This is where the facet of the diamond comes in. There are multiple facets. So this suits me. This guru's teaching speaks to my heart. This is where I feel that I'm free to be myself. Freedom is very important in religion, not being suppressed by some teaching. Then I follow it. But I know at the same time that there are other interpretations, and I've freely chosen this, and I can move from one camp to another camp if I need to. I'm not locked in. And that sense of freedom of understanding is so important to develop religious experience and in religion.
Wow. It's freedom of choosing authority?
Freedom of choosing authority, freedom of understanding authority, freedom of knowing that it's a personal faith. I have to make the decisions, not someone on my behalf. So if the guru says, plant carrots upside down, say, yes, Guruji, but why? That freedom must be there. To say, Guru has said it, therefore I must do it, and I don't ask questions, which some do, you're not going to develop spiritually. Say, Guruji, I'm ready to listen to you. Please explain, why should I plant carrots upside down? And if the Guruji gives an explanation, other than, because I told you so, if he gives an explanation, you can develop spiritually.
Interesting. Yeah. So at the end of this conversation, do you have any questions for me, or how was your experience of this podcast?
Well, it made an old man think. It gave me the chance to think and to reassess my understanding of the Hindu tradition, which for me has been so close to my heart and close to my profession for many decades. So I'm very grateful. I think the first thing that I must say is gratitude to you. Gratitude
it's an honor,
to you
sir,
for being able to reassess Hinduism. I personally, as a Christian, have been deeply affected by Hindu insights, Hindu understandings, Hindu truths, not least because my wife is a Hindu, and we've been married for 55 years. So my whole spiritual life has been enriched and deepened by multiple Hindu insights. And that is why I'm very grateful to you for giving me this chance to look again and renew my religious commitment in terms of dialogue, Christian-Hindu dialogue. I'm very grateful to you for that.
Thank you. It's really an honor for what you've just
Well, thank you to
said.
you.
Thank you so much. And do you have any questions for me at the end?
I think you should deserve a cup of tea now, I think, after this. And so do I, after this long session. So I think we need some physical nourishment.
Yeah.
Because so far the mind has been nourished, but the stomach is still empty. So I think thank you again.
Thank you so much for giving your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you so much. It's really an honor. And I do think that the 50, 60 minutes of conversation is not enough. I think I can drag out more tremendous amount of knowledge from you in terms of more conversations.
Well,
I hope you'll be up for that.
that is in the hands of God. If I'm still around, I'm happy for that. But I think now a good cup of cha calls us.
Sure.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you very much, Jay.
Thank you.
It's a great honor and a privilege to have this conversation with you.
Thank you so much, sir.